Hello, everyone. Welcome to tonight's live stream. How's everybody doing? Can everybody hear me? I see
I can
Brandon's
hear
here.
you.
Hi, Brandon. Uh, Before we get started, and before we get too far into it, uh, I have a guest with me. My guest, or not my guest, Valerie is going to be co-hosting slash moderating all of these. I was just so used to saying guest because yesterday for the composing live stream I had a guest, but Valerie is not a guest for these streams. She is the co-host. Valerie Laney Rowe is my co-host tonight. Everyone say hello to Valerie. Valerie, say hello.
Hello, everyone.
Kyle and Brandon are here. Hi,
Hi,
Kyle.
Kyle. Hi, Brandon.
Kyle and Brandon, both very talented composers. Before we get started, I want to talk a little bit about Valerie. Valerie is a very talented composer herself. Um, Valerie has her. She just this is your first year, isn't it, Valerie?
Yes, it's my first year.
First year with music coming out. Um, I know one of them is called Contrails off the top of my head. I don't have the other one up. What is the other one?
It's called Victorious.
That's right, Victorious. Both of them are really good pieces of music. I have the link to her works down in the description of this video. If any of you are interested, definitely check them out. Good stuff. Valerie, tell us about those pieces while we're waiting for a few more minutes for a few more people to sign in.
Well, I kind of wrote those pieces at a point in my career when I finally began to really feel like I was doing what I was born to do. And so it was just a really high peak in my career um, to finally feel that way and to start to, I guess, see the kids enjoy success and enjoy them enjoying that.
Aw. That's I did a podcast today and it'll be coming out on Saturday. I recorded it with a friend of mine who's a director in the town I live in. His name is Kevin Neese, and we were talking about that today about um, how when I write music myself, it's nice that I'm able to share it with my kids and writing for them and how it affects my, knowing what to write for them and how it affects my writing based on knowing them. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And speaking of, Kevin's in the chat. Hi, Kevin. Valerie, do you find when not we're not going to turn this too much into a podcast about composing, but do you find that when you write that you're writing for your kids?
Honestly, I do. I really do. And it makes it more of a memorable experience for me, and it's a lot more enjoyable, I guess, to hear them play those pieces and enjoy them in the same way.
I well before Valerie and I will keep talking about this, but hey, while everybody is in the chat, please feel free to start asking some Sibelius questions during this time, and then we'll go through. Valerie will read them to me, and I will go through them in Sibelius. Um, so while we're waiting for you all to ask the questions, Valerie, why don't you tell everyone to get a little bit on topic here? Why did you pick Sibelius?
Well, um, I'll be honest with you. My music theory teacher in college used Sibelius, and that was really the program that I had the most experience with. Um, I tried to use Finale once or twice, and it was just so totally different for me. So I just went back to Sibelius and kind of hung around what I knew.
I um I kind of have a similar story with that. And real quick before I get into my story about Sibelius and my experience with it, again, anyone with any questions, please start asking them. And when we get to in between Valerie and I chatting, I'll go through and I'll do my best to try to demonstrate them for you. But I started in Sibelius in 2011. I had actually started in Finale for about 10 years. Um, I got to a project for film that I was doing when I was at school at Kent State University. And when trying to write the film, I didn't feel that Finale handled it as well as Sibelius did. So again, because I wanted to get into film, decided to switch to Sibelius. I think it Finale could do what I wanted. Maybe it didn't. I just didn't know how to do it. Um, but anyways, I ended up being able to understand it a lot better in Sibelius, and it sort of clicked with me, and I have used Sibelius ever since. Brandon Huey is here. Hi,
That's
Brandon.
my coworker.
Welcome, Brandon.
Hey, Brandon.
Again, if anyone has any Sibelius questions, please go through and let's we can go through them. If not, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of walk through starting from the very beginning, and I hate to do that because I don't want to insult anyone's intentions or intelligence, um, but we'll just start from going through the beginning and go some sort of common tricks. Unless Valerie, do you have any questions you want me to try to work through?
The only thing that I would say, most people have asked me, what are the shortcuts? And so I was going to ask you to hit on those at some point.
Okay, I'll talk about the various shortcuts.
Um, Kyle Green says that when he uses an expression marking like mezzo piano or forte, it doesn't default to the Opus font. It uses some other font, and it's really annoying.
So here I'll just pick a random. I won't do the piccolo. I'll pick the flute here. Um, so just to write a quick thing. So here to go through some of the shortcuts I'm using. Uh, and again, if any of this, none of the things I'm saying are meant to insult anyone's intelligence. So please, if you're like John, that's common knowledge. We know that. We don't need you to cover that. Please feel free to say that. I'm not saying this assuming that any of you are not able to figure this stuff out. I just figured that I'd rather say it than not say it. So the keypad down here, if you have a computer with a keypad, a number pad, should align with all of the keys. So for this corner note, I hit 4 on my keypad. And as you can see now, I have that. If I hit 5, I get the half note. 6, I get the whole note, and etc. etc. So I'm just going to put this here on C. Now, if I hit 5 and then C again, you see that it'll do that for me. 4, and then I hit C again, and it'll do that. If I hit 3 and D, C, and then 4 and B, you see that I have now kind of created something like that. Now, to answer Kyle's question, sorry, Kyle, I just wanted to get some notes in here before we did that. So, to write an expression, we hit Control E, and that gives us the ability to write a dynamic. Now, as you can see, there's this whole list of different shortcuts for these things that you can do. Like, for example, if you want to hit piano in the particular font, which is what Kyle was asking, the Opus font, you would hit Control P. If you hit Control F, it'll give you the F in the Opus font. So I know when I see a lot of composers work, they just hit F, and you see we get. I'm going to move the playback line. You see we just get F again. So there's just F. If I do Control E, Control F, I'm holding down Control, and I hit F. You see that I get the F in the Opus font, which is the correct font for the composing, or for engraving, or for your dynamics. Does that make sense?
Yeah, Kyle says I should have known it was that easy. Jeez.
A lot of things, there's still things that I'm learning too about Sibelius. So please don't. I learn things all the time.
I
So
like to call it, for me, it's like happy little accidents, because I'll accidentally bump a key and then it'll do something. I like the first time I was trying to figure out forever how you can turn a note stem the other direction, and I think I had selected a note and I hit X, and it just
yep.
accidentally happened.
So
And
as
I was like,
Valerie
"Oh,
just
that's how
said,
you do that."
just clicking the note head, hit X, and you see the stem will change directions. That is. Oh, sorry. As you can see, I brought up the save dialogue there because, out of habit, I always hit Control S like after I write everything, and I don't need to save this, but just out of habit, that now you can see.
Kyle says you converted to Sibelius and then taught me, so I should know. And then he's laughing.
Hi, John.
That's my husband.
I thought so, but I wasn't gonna say anything.
He's actually used Sibelius before to do some arranging.
um, Kevin, are you still with us? I don't know if I thought I said hello to you, Kevin. Did I say hi to you, Kevin? I don't remember. Kevin was who I did the live or the podcast that's coming out on Sunday with. For those of you who are wondering.
He says he's still here.
Oh, hi. Well, John, you should compose more. I mean, it's not like you don't have a good teacher right there in your house.
So,
Uh,
what are some other really cool tricks that you've learned uh, while using Sibelius? Just shortcut keys.
so to go off of this, you saw I moved the playback line. So I have selected this measure. If I hit Y, it'll go to the beginning of the measure I've selected. If I also click on a note head and hit Y, the playback line will move to right before the note head. Excuse me, I've selected. So I am constantly, when composing, I will click on a note, hit Y, click on a note, hit Y, click on a note, hit Y. Now, you hear how there's that audio glitch that was happening? If you all listen. Oh, it's not doing it now, but it was holding the note out. If you hit Control Alt and Y, you see it brings this tool up called the transport tool. If you ever have the glitch where it will play a note and then not stop, if you just hit the stop here on the transport, it'll stop that glitch. So the thing that I really like, and I don't remember what version of Sibelius this was introduced in, it's called the replay line. And see that there's this dotted thing here, and that tells you the last spot you started. So here, if I tell the playback line to go here, and I hit the space bar to play, you see that now that is there. So if I hit Control on the space bar again, it'll play back from that dotted line. And so then if I go back here and I hit Y, it still will go here. So if I hit Control in the space bar, it'll go here. Or if I hit the regular space bar without Control, it'll go here.
Kyle wants to know if you use a MIDI controller to write as well.
No, I do not. I use purely my keyboard. Now, um, I have thought about buying one of those MIDI keyboards. Um, I haven't really seen a need because I've gotten so good, or not good isn't the right word. I've gotten so used to with muscle memory using the keyboard, just a regular keyboard, not a piano. Um, I have Dorico has a new feature in here. I'll just do that something here so you can all see this real quick. So if I had these four flutes right here, and I had the MIDI keyboard, and I think this is the same for Finale. If I were to use the MIDI keyboard, I could only compose one line at a time. In Dorico, if you played four notes, it would space them out automatically over the four spaces. So, that is something that program does. I have never used the MIDI keyboard in either of them, so I couldn't really tell you specifically which is the best for that.
Kevin would like to know how is writing for percussion in Sibelius, particularly marching band, and he wants to know if it's user friendly.
Um, so that's what I want. All right, so here I'll do a little bit of a demonstration of how to set it up, Kevin, and you can kind of form your own opinion if you would like. So I'm going to go here, and I'm going to go set it up. So what I did here, I went to Add Remove Instrument. I'm going to close that category. Go here to choose from Band Instruments. Again, close the category. Go here to Percussion and Drums. I'm going to add all four of these instruments here. Did I not add them? I thought I hit OK. Oh, I didn't add them to the score. Whoops. Okay. There we go. So here they are. Now, this is where things are going to get a little complicated. And it isn't necessarily Sibelius's fault as much as it's the way that I like to use Sibelius. I use a sound library called Note Performer. Note Performer, as you'll hear here, because I don't have it set, right, is going to use concert sounding instruments. If you can hear that snare drum, it is all, and same with the marching toms. Those are not toms. Those are toms. Those are not marching tenor drums. The bass drums are all, they're toms. And then the cymbals, I think, are correct. Yeah, the cymbals are correct. So I like to use actually what are called the Sibelius sounds, the sounds that come with Sibelius, because they actually sound like Sibelius sounds. I'm sorry, like marching band percussion. So what I'm going to do here is I'll just preload this so you can all hear it. Actually, what I'll do is I'll go here to Sibelius 7 sounds. And you see there, thing about Note Performer versus Sibelius, it takes a couple seconds for them to load. But as you can hear, now I have actual marching band sounding percussion. So here, just to, you can hear it. Now, so that sounds a little bit more like marching percussion. Now you would say, but John, I really like how Note Performer sounds for the winds, but I don't like how it sounds for the marching percussion. As you can see here, I've created a configuration called marching band. What you do here, in order to do that, because not everyone has that, you go here to setup, and you would create a new configuration. And just so that you can all see what I did, oopsie, that's not the right things. Marching band. So you see here, what you do is you put Note Performer for all the channels here, and then you click for Sibelius as well. So, because this will list all the instrument sets that you have, you just have to say that you want to have this in the active column. Now, that isn't all you have to do from there. You have to open the mixer. Now, to open the mixer, you go here, check the box for mixer, and click this. This opens up the different levels. This little, almost looks like a cell phone reception thing. Now, you'll see here that you are then presented with what type of player. I want Sibelius. And for the snare drum, then I have to then find, so here it says marching snares. That's not the right one, is it? That can't be the right one. Hang on. Am I in the right? Uh-oh. I don't like when that happens. I like when this stays docked down here. Am I in the right configuration? Yes, I am. I don't see the marching... Well, let's do that. Marching snares for the tenors. So Sibelius player. Sibelius 7 sounds. Marching tenors. Then you would go here, Sibelius player. Marching bass drum. Then for cymbals, Sibelius player. I guess auto works. That's weird that it isn't listing it. But anyways, that's how you would set it up. Now, I know some people like their snare drums to be on one line. And if you forgive me, I need to go pull up a template so I can remember what it all looks like. I'm going to pull that up real quick so I can do this correctly. So the snare drum usually goes on one line. So what we would do in order to do that, go here to instruments and click the little arrow down here. Marching snare, where it says 5 lines, you click edit instrument, and then it's going to let you know that you're using the instrument. So sounding pitch clef, we don't want that. Where is... It's been a long... I have this all set up in a document, so it's been kind of a long time since I've done this. I think this is it.
Kyle says edit staff type.
I'm trying to remember. Is that how to make it one line, Kyle?
He says general number of lines.
So here, edit, yes.
And he says
edit
yes.
Staff type. General, yeah. So here, general number of staff lines, and you do 1. Thank you, Kyle. It's been so long since I've done that. So yeah, there we go at 1. Now there becomes a glitch. So some people like to write their snare drum notes above the line, not on it when they're doing this. So you see, now I'm getting no sound no matter what I do for the snare drum. They're up here. They're hiding. Yeah, they're hiding up there is where the snare drum sounds are. So, if I want it to be on this note here, and let's say I want that to always be stem up, like most people would like it, let's set that up. So we go here to instruments. Let's see. Snare drum, edit instrument. Yes. So in edit staff type, we need to see now this is one line. So basically all of these need to move down. So there is our snare drum sound. So we can just move this down to there. And now it should play back correctly. And so you can always go, so you see it says best sound snare hit. You can go here, Sibelius 7 sound, marching snares, drum, and say what kind of MIDI you want, rim click, snare hit, snare rim shot, snare roll. you could say what kind of, specify what kind of sound you want to have happen for those. But if we go here to, which one is it? One of these is we can tell it to go stems up all the time. Here, stems, always up. Okay, okay. Now we should be able to write here, and the stem is always up. And as you can hear, there's a little delay because of Note Performer versus Sibelius 7 sounds. But now you can hear that the MIDI is playing that correct. Although it sounds like it's playing a flam. Let's fix that. So we go here. There, edit, yes. And then if we go back here to edit staff types, click on that, choose sound, Sibelius 7 sounds, marching snares, and just do snare. Oh, snare hit is what it already is. That's weird. It sounds like it's doing a flam or something, but yeah, I guess that's it. But then we could hit Control F, give that a forte, copy and paste it. I think cymbals are another one that are usually always stems up. In fact, I think all of them are usually always stems up. So while you're there, you would just want to, so marching tenors, edit, yes, edit staff type. Come over here to notes and rest, always up. Okay, okay. Bass drum, edit, yes. Go to edit staff type, notes and rest, always up. Okay. And then last but not least, the cymbals, edits, edit staff type, notes and rest, always up. And now if we look, they're all stem up. Cool. Does that answer your question, Kevin? Does that make sense? I think once you do it a few times, it all makes sense. A lot of things in all the programs, it just takes a couple minutes to just remember how to do them.
Kevin says yes, it's very helpful.
Cool. All right. Is there anything else specifically you wanted me to cover, Kevin?
Brandon was asking about creating multi-movement pieces. I don't know if you want to talk about that next.
Sure, we'll do that next. All right, so I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to this will delete. Yes, I'm going to create a string quartet here. So if we click on strings, oh, because I'm in band, that's why that I don't have them. So orchestral instruments, I want strings. So you see I can actually select that like that. So how I did that is I clicked on violin 1, I held shift, violoncello, I then hit control, double bass, add to score. I now have everybody there. Hit OK. So Brandon, I'm going to get to that in a long way, covering a couple other things. I'm going to go back to Note Performer sounds. I like to, because these are the same instrument on the main bracket, I like to add a secondary bracket or a sub bracket because they're the same instrument. So what we're going to do is go to notations, bracket or brace. I usually tell it to draw the sub bracket as a brace. And then I hit sub bracket. And then it'll do that. And then you'd be like, but John, our labels are getting eaten alive by the brace. So what we would do is go to Layout, Document Setup, the little tab down here. And this will basically separate the distance between everything. So we want for the full thing there to go oopsie, I'm not typing anything like that. 1.25, enter. Oh, another thing. I forgot about this. So we want the labels to be justified left. That's part of the main problem here. So if we go to instrument names, edit, horizontal position, justify left. Now it'll be all right. So, oh, there you see I hit Control S again. All right, so this is our piece of music. So let's give it a time signature. So we hit this to this. Now to get a time signature, if we select these two measures and hit T, this time signature, as you can see, will apply to these two measures, and it defaults to 4/4 for the rest of them. If I want the whole piece to be in 4/4, I have to select the whole piece. I'm sorry, 3/2, and then it'll put 3/2 for the whole thing. So, let's say that this is our first movement of our piece. Oopsie. Don't you hate it when you have to play a concert S? Okay, cool. So that's our piece. Let us now. So here's another thing. So you say I want this all on one page. If you go up here under layout and go to make into system, it will now make that like that. Actually, you know what we should do is we should make it one whole page. So let's if we hit Control B, we can add more measures. As you can see, we can make that into a system. And let's see, why can't we make this? Oh, this may be a little too big. So if we make the staff sizes smaller, now we can fit this onto one page. But see, now we're having this problem down here with the labels. Brandon, I am getting to your question, I promise. It's going to just be a little bit of a roundabout way of getting there. That's a little too much. There we go. So 0.6 gives us kind of this space here. So those are all okay. So this is our first movement of our piece. So I like to write all this here in here, and I'll tell you why. There's these things called tokens that I like that help me, and I'll tell you a little bit about those tokens. John and Valerie. Oops. Valerie, did I spell your name right?
You spelled my name right, but my husband's. Are you doing John as in
No, I'm doing
your
mine.
John or?
Me.
Okay, then you're right because my husband doesn't have an H in his name.
That's me. All right. So, and then we'll just for this copyright. It's not really copyright, but we'll just do this so we can. Learning Sibelius. There we go. So there's our copyright. So if we go here to text, we go to styles. Oopsie. And so say we go click on title, and we click on the first measure. You see that now we have that. So if we hit backslash money sign and then type title backslash, it'll now change this to the token of which we created. So that will update automatically to whatever we made the title. See? It'll change to whatever I change that to. Oops. Even with my bad spelling. So, if we add the other things, so if we go here to composer, click on the first measure, backslash money sign, composer, backslash, that gets that. Okay? Now, this, as you can see, is hidden in the score label. We just hit Control, Shift, and H will unhide it. Now, let's say we want to give this a movement. So if we go here to subtitle, click on the first measure. This one we are not going to give a token because it's going to change every time there's a new movement. So if we type in here, this movement is movement 1. Valerie, what's a good movement name? Chat, suggest a movement name.
Marching percussion.
Oh, there we go. Marching percussion. Okay, cool. So, if we go here to the last measure of the piece, we go to Home, and we open what's called the Inspector. The inspector gives us all these kind of bonus tools here that we can use. What we're going to do is we're going to check section end. You see this gives us like a double bonus bar above it. So now if we hit Control B, we go on to the next page here, and we've started over. We have the full names as compared to the short names down here. Now, you may want to grab this, bring this down here a little bit so that it reflects that it's a new movement, or just a little bit. We're going to unhide this. Control V, the subtitle, and I usually will just lower that so it looks uniform there. So this will have to change to movement 2, string orchestra. And then what we can do, so then you see here, this is where it gets a little tricky. So let's say we want to change the time signature. You'll say, well, the previous movement now has the time signature. So if we hit T, go to more options, where it says allow cautionary, if we uncheck that and check 2-4, you see that it'll go there. And then if we click on this bar line, go to notations, go to final, now we have 2 movements. Now, the one thing that we haven't talked about yet is bar numbers. So if we go to bar numbers and we start setting this up, we want it to be every measure, hide at rehearsal marks. We don't want the first bar as sections. We don't want it to count multi-measure rests. We want it below the bottom staff, and we want it to be after the clef. So you see here that it's 2, 3, 4, all the way 10, and then here it starts at 12. If we double click on that where it says this and we hit new bar number, oopsie, that should be measure 2. And now there are 2 movements. And you see that the rehearsal marks should start over again. Oh, no, they don't. But the way around that is if we go here to rehearsal marks, bar number, okay, and oopsie. Control B gives you the, Control R gives you the rehearsal marks. Does that answer your question, Brandon?
Yes, he says it does. And I'm really glad that Brandon asked that, because that's something that I'd been kind of struggling with trying to figure out how to do in Sibelius. So thank you, Brandon, for asking. Really good question.
And real quick, since we did this, and I made that thing. So if we go here and we add a copyright, where did I copyright? Where are you at? Right here. Okay. If we click on the first measure, backslash, money sign, copyright, backslash, boom, done. So I use those all the time because I like to keep track of this catalog information all here, and then it'll automatically update here based on that. That's my personal preference of how I do everything. You can always type all that stuff here, but I just, that's the way I handle it. Any other questions? Any other features? Oops. Here's something I didn't catch. The transposing, not that it would matter for a string orchestra, but transposing score was turned off. I've for those of you that watch the composing live stream, I've gotten bad at remembering to turn that on and turn it off. Oh, there. See, there's something I just learned. Control Shift and T will turn that on. Turn it on and off. See, so even I just learned something new. Any other questions? Let's hear anything else you guys want to know. I'll show you guys how to change the box around the rehearsal mark real quick. If we go there so that it looks more square instead of sideways rectangle. If we go here to the border, this is what I usually do. 30, 30, and then 0, 0. That's still not quite big enough. And as you can see, it needs to move down, or doesn't need to move down. It needs space above it. So basically, you have to play with these percentages until that box looks more square. So here, border. So there needed to be some above it. Let's try that. So 30, 30, 30. There we go. See, now it's a little bit more spaced out. If we get to a double digit, yeah, see, that looks more, when you get to the double digit, it's more of a square and it looks more spaced out. Looks nicer in my opinion. And again, someone may ask, so how, let's say that you wanted 5 measures on a page every time around. So like you see here, we have 5, 5 on a thing. If we hit Control A for select all, go to plugins, make layout uniform, and let's say 5. Now, you want to make sure you always hit do not break pages, because if you leave the other one turned on, that happens. And it'll basically mush it all together into a page. So if you go here to make layout uniform, do not break pages, and hit OK, you'll see everything is now hunky-dory. Any other questions? Valerie, do you have any questions?
Well, my main issues that I've run into is just trying to find the right sound on cymbals. I don't know if that sounds strange, but a lot of times when I'm writing, I'll try to write for like a suspended cymbal roll, and it comes out kind of funny sounding.
So here, I'll
I
show
don't know if
you.
there's.
I'll show you some of the tricks for those, or how I would do it. So I'm going to delete all of what we just did. Do I want to? Yes, I do. Okay. So add remove. Let's add a percussion 5 line. Okay. Okay, cool. Now I need to figure out, if we click here, we were in the percussion mapping earlier, edit staff type, we need to figure out which symbol is, or which thing is for a symbol. Now, symbols are usually the X symbol. And we need to find which one of these X's is the one that we need. I do believe it oh, nope. I was going to say I thought it defaulted to A, but it does not default to A. We may need to create our own. Oh, it's here. It's this note head 18. So this is important. If you ever add your own sounds, I'm actually going to do this to demonstrate it. If we click new, and notice this is some weird glitch. If I click here on D, it doesn't put it, oh, it's doing a little better, but sometimes it'll put it like on G, or it'll put it on A. It doesn't necessarily always line up with where you told it you want it to go. All right, so we're going to put it actually on G. That's where I want it to go. And we're going to leave it on 18 for this. Now, if you look, there's more than one diamond-shaped note head. 18 is one of them. 6 is one of them. 2 is kind of it, but not exactly. So let's say that we've clicked 18, and we're going to leave it on 18. Hit OK, OK, close. So I'm going to write out my little suspended symbol thing here. Go through the motions of it. So that's how I would write it minus the note heads. So if I click on the notes, I hit Control when clicking on those notes. I know it may be hard for you to see, but they're blue because I clicked on one, I hit Control and clicked on the other. Go to Notations, go to Type. Now, again, as I pointed out, there's two. There's number 6, and then there's 18. You have to make sure you click on the one that you told it or assigned it to. So if I click 6, as you can hear, nothing happens. If you click 18, here, oh, nothing is happening. What did I? So I made a mistake somewhere in the mapping of those notes. Oh, because I did it in marching symbols. See, I wasn't paying attention. I did it in marching symbols. I edited that. So if I go here to band instruments, percussion and drums, percussion 5 line, go to edit instrument, go to OK or yes, edit staff type. That's why those symbols didn't look right and didn't sound right. So here we're going to do that. We're going to add a new one. See, so there it is. I clicked on G and it put it all the way up here on C above the staff. I don't know why Sibelius does that, but it does. But anyway, so we want note head 18. Here we can choose the sound. So we go to note performers, the library that's here. If Sibelius 7 was here, if we left it on the marching band thing, Sibelius 7 would also show up. But if we go to orchestral percussion, now there's two. Oh no, is it metal? Yeah. Okay, so here are the different symbol options. I usually use the first one. This is the symbol. It says clash. And then here, if you click on it, you can hear that it sounds just like a crash cymbal. So then if we hit OK, OK, close, that's now what this sounds like. So if I do that, I hit like that. Oops. I hit X to switch that. I hit X to switch the tie. Control E to give it the dynamic there. H gives us the crescendo. Shift H gives us the decrescendo. Control E gives us the that. Oops. So here, let's give this a listen. Now, let's say that you wanted the let vibrate or the let vibre, if I remember correctly. If we click on that and hit the tie, we want it to go the other way. But you see here in the inspector, tie ends. If we hit the LV thing here, it makes it nice and organized. Now, it still won't play it correctly. If we click on it and we type L.V. and then Control Shift H to hide it, it should play it and let it ring. I don't understand why that one is playing that and the other one isn't. Type. Let's just make sure this is on the right one. 18. There it is. Okay. Let's give it a listen. Does that sound better, Valerie? Is that what you were looking for, or?
Yeah, that sounds a lot better than what I was getting.
So that's how I usually do that. To get that to work, I turn this to note head, different note head, and then with the tie to the other one, and then with the dynamics. It's usually how I accomplish that. Cool. Any other questions, anyone? Anyone else have anything else they want to ask about Sibelius? Valerie, any other questions?
I don't see any other questions. I'm just really enjoying watching you show the different shortcuts and the different ways that you do things.
It's it comes this from learning it. I used to know a whole bunch of Sibelius finale shortcuts when I used it for 10 years, but I can't remember any of them. I can't remember a single one of them. Kevin, Kyle, Brandon, any other questions?
Brandon says he doesn't have any other questions.
Okay. Well, if there's no other questions, I think that we will call it a night for tonight. And then we will come back next Wednesday for more questions. If you are writing and you go, oh, I wish I knew how to do that. Um, we'll be back next Wednesday for more. Um, if you think of anything between now and then. So tomorrow, so some programming for the channel. Tomorrow we will have composing with Lori. Then next Tuesday we'll have composing with a yet unnamed co-host. And then next Wednesday we'll be back with Valerie for more Sibelius. And then next Thursday we'll have more composing with Lori. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. It really was a blast on my end. I thank you, Valerie, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you all who were able to make it tonight. And hopefully we will see you all again at the next live stream, either tomorrow or next week. Thank you all so much.